Marhaba, welcome everybody to our Community Check-in Friday. We are very, very excited to have our special guest with us today. Today we're going to be discussing tenant and landlord rights. We know right now it's a little bit of a tough time with everything that's going on, and a lot of people have a lot of different questions about what can they do, what they can't do. And ultimately what we're trying to get everybody to do is do what you can, right? And try to understand where people are coming from and try at the same time to work with the people as long as you can do that. So we are very excited to have with us today a very special guest. We're also very thankful for our wonderful co-sponsor from Waffle House, who is a wonderful organization that's actually working specifically with this issue among many other issues. So they are helping with rental assistance. They are helping with family assistance of any kind. They have a lot of different services, and we highly, highly recommend that you check out their website at www.wafflehouse.org. You can also call them at 1-800-930-9232 or email them at info@wafflehouse.org with any of your questions, and they can definitely refer you to the right resources. And so today we have actually with us one of their very valuable resources, their attorney, Mr. Frank Paruola. Frank started with Waffle House in the fall of 2019. He has over 15 years of experience in family law litigation, domestic violence litigation, and criminal law. Frank graduated from Seton Hall University. He's proud to be part of the legal clinic at Waffle House, providing free legal services and satisfying the agency's mission statement for a stronger community. Without further ado, I'd like to pass on the mic to Frank.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Attorney Frank Paruola. I'm the staff counsel for Waffle House, located in downtown Passaic, and thank you very much, NJPAC, for having us here today. Waffle House and NJPAC are here to help you in any way we can. If it's physically possible for us to help you, you will get aid. Now, this will really be a presentation of tenants and landlords' rights under the current state of emergency that we all live under, unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 virus. Now, maybe I'll run through some general stuff and then we'll get a little bit more specific. One of the most important things that we need to, as tenants, that we need, and landlords as well, that we need to keep in mind and be informed about is the Governor Philip Murphy's Executive Order 106. Executive Order 106 went into effect on March 29th of 2020. Now, basically, March 19th of 2020. Now, basically what Executive Order 106 does is that it immediately suspends evictions throughout the state of New Jersey. It suspends evictions, it suspends lockouts, and it suspends warrants of removal. Now, what that means, what does that mean to the tenant or renter? It means that no tenant, renter, and homeowner, you might also be a homeowner dealing with your bank or mortgage company, may be removed from their home or from their premises or rental for an inability to pay rent or your mortgage payments during the COVID-19 emergency. Now, moving along, this eviction, the halt on the eviction process, let's be specific. Let's get a little more specific about that. Governor Murphy's Executive Order 106 does not completely stop the eviction process itself. What it does is it's called a moratorium on evictions. It's an eviction moratorium, which specifically means that no tenant, and again, repeating, no tenant or homeowner may be removed from his or her rental property or home or house due to eviction proceedings. So, for example, if you're a landlord, yes, you can go to the court right now, landlord-tenant court. You may file an eviction proceeding against a tenant who's not paying rent. They will take your fee. They will likely issue you a docket number. they likely will not do is give you a court date, or they'll give you a court date that's way, way out there towards the end of summer, could be even September, around that time, because we are backed up. But that's as far as it will go. They'll take your paperwork, they'll take your fee, they may issue a docket number, but that's as far as it'll go. The process itself, the internal court working process itself, is still working, but at the end of it, where there are no trials, you're not going to get any trial dates, you're not going to get, again, and no Superior Court judge is going to issue an order of eviction, warrant of removal, a lockout order, or anything like that. That is not going to happen. Executive Order 106 stops that dead in its tracks. It halts that part. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. Yes, the internal workings of the court system still are working, they're functioning, but no evictions, no lockouts, no changing of locks. That's what a lockout is. No sheriff's deputies, no police officers are going to show up at your door and asking you to leave, forcibly removing you and forcibly removing your property. That is not going to happen now. Now, I'll backtrack a little bit about this. If it's possible, if it is possible for the tenants at all, I recommend opening up a channel of communication with your landlord. Talk to your landlord. See if they'll talk to you. Work something out. If you cannot pay the full rent, see if you can work out a payment plan. Executive Order 106, subsection 103 and 128 do allow you, specifically section 128 does allow that you can use your security deposit that you gave to the landlord, which is usually 1 or 2 months rent in advance. You can use it in part or in whole to pay for your rent arrears. So if you just cannot pay, you don't have the money, you don't have the funds to pay, you are allowed under executive order to use your security deposit to pay your past due arrears in rent, all or in part. Now, another small specific about that is that do not worry about your credit rating. Because you're late on your rent, due to the executive order and influence of the input from New Jersey Supreme Court, this does not affect your credit rating. It should not. Don't let it. Check your credit rating after this is all over. It should not show up. Also, if you happen to have to spend your security deposit and you spent it on your past rent, you are not required under the executive order to replenish it. So if it's a $2,000 rental deposit that's in there and you use it up to pay past rent and you can't pay anymore, that's used up. You do not have to replenish your deposit. The only time you have to replenish your deposit is if you renew your lease. Now, getting back to evictions. Even though the internal workings of the court system are still in place, and to a degree, percentage, they are functioning, some people will very likely and are concerned that, well, they'll say, I already received court papers that I'm being evicted. A court order has already been issued before the state of emergency or very close to it, or before March 19th or on or about or approximately. What do I do? I'm going to get evicted. No, that's not going to happen. The Executive Order 106 covers that. It covers anything in process. It covers anything that was about to happen imminently. So if you were within days of being evicted, you do not have to worry about that. It's still stopped. Now, another important part of Executive Order 106 is, well, 2 very important parts. One is that Executive Order 106 has the backing and support, of course, of the New Jersey Supreme Court. The New Jersey Supreme Court has control over all of the landlord-tenant courts within the state of New Jersey. So New Jersey Supreme Court also has issued an order, moratorium like, that no evictions are to be processed and put through. So again, no sheriff's deputy is going to show up at your door and evict you. No lockouts, no warrants of removal will be issued. Even if the process was started before the executive order, before the lockdown, before this mess started, and you were in the process of being evicted for not payment of rent, it stopped. So you do not have to worry about the stage that you're at. Now, the other important part of this, very important part, is that Executive Order 106 will be removed, will be lifted only when the state of emergency in New Jersey is lifted by the governor. Now, how does this relate to evictions? Well, it specifically states in Executive Order 106 that no evictions will occur until the state of emergency is lifted by the governor, plus 60 days, 60 calendar days. So let's say the governor lifts the state of emergency tomorrow. If you were in the process of being evicted, if you were on the doorstep of being evicted, unfortunately, whatever point in the process you were in, you will not be evicted as soon as the state of emergency is lifted. You still have another 2 months to address the problem. So it's the day the state of emergency is lifted by the governor, plus 60 days. So don't panic if the state of emergency is lifted. You do have extra time. You have an extra 60 days to work things out with your landlord, find another place to live, pull yourself together. I know it's difficult, but don't panic about that part. Now, with regard to landlords' rights, landlords, and I'm specifically speaking to landlords at this time, please, you need to be forgiving of your tenants. Your tenants are very likely, they've lost their jobs. We all know, we've all heard on the news about what's happening with the unemployment system. They may be having a very difficult time even accessing unemployment, even though they're entitled to it. So there are going to be delays. So please be patient with, and landlords, I'm asking you specifically, please be patient with your tenants and renters, because they're having a very difficult time. And of course, renters, please be patient with your landlords, because the landlord is also under pressure. That apartment house that you're living in has a mortgage on it that the landlord is responsible for, and the landlord is responsible for directly to the mortgage company that he got the mortgage from, and is what, or the bank. He's responsible, and I'm sure he's got pressure from the bank being put on him that's saying, hey, you're not paying your note on this property, on this rental property. And landlords, I will give this advice, landlords need to reach out to their bank and their mortgage company, because very frequently in the state of New Jersey, well, again, the landlord's not going to be foreclosed on. 106 covers that too. But open dialogue with your mortgage company, your bank, ask for almost unilaterally across the board, all giving a 90-day deferment or forbearance for the landlord to pay the bank. And you can, if the bank isn't, or the mortgage company isn't listening to you, if they're being a little stubborn, be stern with it, be firm, don't have to be nasty. Just remind them that they have gotten federal government backing to keep them afloat, to keep the landlords afloat. So be firm about it. Landlords, don't be threatened either. Also, especially the mortgage or type of mortgage, I won't get into very specifics about this, but type of mortgage or lending that a landlord may have taken from a bank could be federally funded, and that's a whole different set of rules. That gives the landlord even more time. So landlords may want to look into that. Getting back to tenants. Now, another frequent question that comes up is, can my utilities be cut off if I don't pay rent? Well, no, they cannot be. They cannot be cut off in two ways. The landlord certainly cannot cut off your utilities. That's illegal. If he does it, call the police, and landlord will be obligated to turn back on the utilities, light, gas, and electric. Now, you also may get a delinquent notice from the gas and electric company. If you get a delinquent notice, contact the company up in New Jersey, because right now, as of today, to my knowledge, every gas and electric company provider in the state of New Jersey is not enforcing any shutdowns. So you're not going to have a technician truck pull up in front of your house or apartment and shut off your gas meter, and now you have no gas and electric. That's not going to happen. They've unilaterally taken it on themselves not to do that. So applaud them for that. And guys, please keep that up. We're all in this together. Now, getting back to landlords. Landlords, please don't threaten please don't threaten the tenants with a lockout that if they go out, for food, or they go out to run an errand, the apartment's empty, you open the apartment, you take all their stuff out, they come back, the locks are changed, and all of their property is out on the street, on the sidewalk. You cannot do that. That could be considered a crime under, very specifically, landlord harassment. That is a crime, and that's not something you want to do. And you really technically cannot change the locks and/or enter and remove property without a Superior Court judge's warrant of removal or order of lockout. You cannot do that without those two pieces of paper, and you are not going to get that right now due to Executive Order 106 and the backing of this New Jersey Supreme Court. Now, with regard to tenants, I know this is a difficult time for you. Of course, it's a difficult time for all of us. We're all in this together. Approach your landlord. You are still responsible for your rent. Executive Order 106 does not. The state does not absolve you from paying back rent that's due. It just stops evictions, lockouts, and removals. So if you're behind on rent, you're still responsible for it. Do you still have to pay your rent? The answer is yes. Again, just touching back on, if you really have no resources, if you're really running into a problem with the landlord, please contact NGPAC and/or Waffle House. We will help you. We'll point you in the right direction. We may even reach out to the landlord and try to work something out. Now, if you want to use, getting back to the security deposit, if you want to use your security deposit, practically speaking, you need to notify the landlord in writing, write them a letter, drop it off or mail it, or you need to let them know electronically. If you have their email, you have to send them an email requesting, hey guys, landlord, please, I am requesting that you apply my security deposit to back rent. They are obligated to do that. They have to accept it. Another question might come up is, can landlords raise the rent? Well, maybe. Likely they probably could. What good it would do now, it really wouldn't. But yeah, they probably could raise the rent. Likely not to happen. Now, again, one of the exceptions to Order 106 that you cannot be evicted is if a tenant becomes violent enough that they pose a danger to themselves and the landlord and other tenants as well. Yes, an eviction will go through and you will be. This is very rare. I couldn't say that I've actually even run across it myself in practice, but again, I know tempers might flare between landlords and tenants. So please, if the tenant finds yourself getting loggerheads with the landlord face to face and they're not listening, and don't let it escalate. Turn around, walk away, cool off, call NJPAC, call Waffle House. There are resources out there that can help you, and you really need to take advantage of them, especially in times like this. Now, moving along, okay, we did the exceptions, and I did cover, again, it bears repeating, all this does, what does the executive order do? It does not stop the eviction process itself internally within the court, but it does stop the eviction from being executed. So again, by executed, I mean no sheriff's deputies are coming out with a warrant of removal, lockout. The court's not going to give the landlord permission to lock you out, kick you out, or anything like that. That is not going to happen. And landlords, again, please try to work with your tenants. We're all in this together. The landlords can call NJPAC or Waffle House if they're having problems and say, hey, can you help us out? We have a problem here. We can't figure it out. Can you point us in the right direction? We'll be more than happy to. That's what we're here for. Okay, so now we've gone through the Supreme Court backing of what's going on, and it can happen. It hasn't happened yet, but it is a possibility, very distinct possibility, that even if, when, hopefully, the governor lifts the state of emergency and Executive Order 106 is lifted, it is possible that the New Jersey Supreme Court may give you even extra time against that 60 days. So it's possible that you not only have an extra 60 days from the date that the Executive Order of emergency is lifted, but state is lifted, but and 60 days, but the New Jersey Supreme Court may also give you more than 60 days. I'm not saying that that's not the law of the land now, that's not a rule, but it is possible, and it could very likely happen that the New Jersey Supreme Court does intervene and do that. Hopefully they will, as far as tenants are concerned, and give tenants more help because they'll need it. The system's going to be overburdened, and again, we all need to work together. Now, moving along, I would like to let's address some food for thought. And the food for thought is this: tenants, be aware specifically of your rights. If you did try to reach out to your landlord, they're not listening, they don't want to hear you, they're cutting you off, they're sending you nasty messages, pay up or you're going to be kicked out, et cetera, et cetera. Don't have an escalated reaction to it. Don't have an angry reaction to it. If they're not listening to you, don't panic. The landlord cannot put you out. They cannot evict you, physically evict you. They cannot lock you out. They cannot remove you. Now, if you do have, as I said before, if you do happen to go out on an errand and you come back and your locks are changed and all your property is sitting outside on the sidewalk, you call the police, you dial 911. That is a crime. The landlord's not supposed to do that. It falls under landlord-tenant harassment. Actually, the landlord yelling at you or always threatening you that you're going to be put out on the street, you can have nowhere to go, etc. That also falls under landlord harassment. So landlords, please be aware of that. Please don't break the law. We have a legal system that works very well with this. Work within the system and work with your try not to make it too adversarial if you can do that. Tenants, again, know what your rights are. You go out, the locks are changed, your stuff's outside, call the police. That's the thing to do. The police will talk to the landlord. He has to give you, he'll either change the lockbacks to your original keys or he'll give you the new keys to get back in, and they will help you put all your stuff back into the house. Hopefully it doesn't get that ugly, but if it does, and it might, it's a big state, so we have a lot of people and a lot of renters and tenants. Everything has to go back into the apartment or rental dwelling, and that's it. This also applies for homeowners too. I'm also speaking to homeowners. I'm also addressing homeowners' problems. If your lending company, your mortgage company is at the point where they sold your house at sheriff's sale, foreclosure went through and it's sold at sheriff's sale, and the next step is an eviction for you. Unfortunately, that eviction is not going to happen. You are not going to be evicted from your home. You are not going to be locked out. You are not going to. Remember, it is until the state of emergency is lifted by Governor Philip Murphy. Until you hear it from his mouth, we are still in state of emergency. 106 applies. Nothing is going to happen to you. Yes, you are still liable for the rent. You're still liable for past rent. You could get a judgment against you for that, for past rent, once the system opens up. Not now. Again, don't forget, you can use your rental deposit. Has to be done in writing or send an email. Now, let's see. I believe there is one other point I would like to touch upon, which is important, and that is, I'm going to call it the rental lottery, which is going to be going into effect in July within the state of New Jersey. There's probably a better term for it, but right now it's just rental lottery. The State Department of Community Affairs in Trenton has created a short-term rental assistance program for renters to help low-income and moderate-income households. So if you're a low-income household, moderate-income household, you will qualify for this. Now, remember, it's a lottery. I don't know all the specifics yet, and I don't think the specifics are out there yet about how to apply for the lottery, but it will start sometime in July. And it will focus on anybody who has lost their job. Specifically, you lost your job because of the COVID-19 crisis, if your business has been shut down, you may have owned a restaurant, shut down, can't get customers back, anything like that. A workout studio, gym, anything like that, stuff that hasn't been opened yet. If you're out of a job, period. If you're on unemployment, as long as you're out of a job, you will qualify. But again, it's a lottery, and I'm not sure how they're going to work this out. If it's first come, first serve, it's the first 5,000 people, 10,000 people, or 500 people. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But please keep in touch with the news. Google it. Make sure you keep on top of it. This is rental assistance from the state of New Jersey, coming from directly the State Department of Community Affairs. It will happen, and it will happen in July. Rental assistance applications, I believe, will start July 6th. So please visit, I believe it's coming up right now, https njgovs/DCA Department of Community Affairs, of course. If there's any confusion about that, call NJPAC, call Waffle House. We'll answer your questions. I'll answer your questions personally. Again, Frank, call Waffle House and ask for Frank. We're located at number 23 House Street, downtown Passaic. You are always welcome. We're always there to help. We respond to emergencies too, as NJPAC does too. We do a lot of duplicate things with NJPAC in conjunction with them. So you're not alone. That's the point. You're not alone. Now, portion of a $100 million, just some more specifics, a portion of $100 million fund that the State Department of Community Affairs has, a portion of that $100 million will be allocated to this rental assistance lottery. So please keep on top of it for July 6th. Get your application in as fast as you can. It is a lottery. Not everyone's going to get it. Likely it's first come, first served. And we do have very specifics about income, household verifications. If you're low to moderate, I I think a very good barometer or way of telling if you will be qualifying for any allocations. You have to be low income. You can be homeless and still apply for this lottery. Even if you're homeless, even if you lost your home or you're out on the street, you can still apply to this lottery. So even if you don't have a place, God forbid, you can still apply. Or you're at the risk of being homeless, you're right on the doorstep of it, you can still apply, of course. Uh, it will likely cover up to 12 months of rent, maybe 6, maybe 12. It looks like it's going to be about 12 months of rent, and that's a big help. Um, One of the other criteria, I believe, will be your household earnings, your total household earnings for this lottery will likely have to be 80% less of the median income of the area that you're in. So you really do have to be moderate to low income to qualify. And that comes from the State Department of Community Affairs. And again, it's starting on July 6th. So please don't forget about that. That's very important. One other thing regarding remember, you do not, if you use your security deposit, you do not have to refund it. You're not obligated to replenish it. If you, down the road, 8 or 9 months from now, your lease is up, and if the landlord does have to fix anything in the apartment that you may have cracked, peeled, broke, whatever, if it was an accident, you will be responsible for that still, if it would come out of your security deposit. But you can use your whole entire security deposit, and you do not have to replenish it. And this business of being late on rent and so on and so forth should not be going on your credit report and not affecting your credit rating as it would under normal times. But as we all know, this is the new normal, and we really do have to work together. Again, it bears repeating. Executive Order 106 is a moratorium on evictions, lockouts, and warrants of removal. It stops the process at that point. It stops the process at you being physically removed from the property and your property being removed and the locks changed. Landlords can still go to landlord-tenant court. They can make an application, pay the fee, get a docket number. You're likely not going to get a court date. You're likely not going to get a court date. If you receive papers in the mail, if you receive court papers in the mail for an eviction, contact Waffle House or NJPAC. We have staff attorneys. We will tell you what to do. If it has a date on it, if it has a show-up date for court, don't panic about the date. That's just the control date that they stamped on it. It's likely state of emergency is not going to be lifted by then. That will be extended. So if you do get court papers, don't let your blood pressure go up. It's easy for me to say, but try to stay as calm as possible. And please, tenants and landlords, try to work things out together. Again, tenants, if you can't, if you're at loggerheads, don't take the law into your own hands. There are ways of legally addressing this that are beneficial to you. And landlords too, please do not take the law into your own hands. Don't lock your tenants out. Don't sneak into their apartment, take their stuff, put it out on the street. That is a crime, could be rising to a felony. Don't do it. Not a good idea. It's not a solution. And at that point, moving along, if there are any questions that might be coming up, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
Thank you so much, Frank. That was very, very educational and very insightful. We just want to reiterate again, if you are able to make your payments, please do so. This whole point of everything that's going on right now and all the different stimulus checks and different packages are meant to help you. And they're meant to help those that are in need. And if you are not taking advantage, if you're taking advantage of the system, and then you're going to essentially ruin the system. So please make sure that you are utilizing things properly. If you can pay your rent, use your stimulus check. There may be another stimulus check coming up. Make sure to pay your rent first, and then, take care of any other needs. As always, and as Frank said, so Frank is the legal attorney for Waffle House. On the bottom of the screen, you can see Waffle House's information. If you have any other questions or any other needs that you have, you can contact them at 1-800-930-9232 or email them at info@wafflehouse.org or visit them at www.wafflehouse.org. With that, I do have one question, actually, Frank. It's slightly not related to rent, but it is. I remember talking to Wijdan about the stimulus checks. So what happens if, for example, the couple get divorced and they would like the stimulus check? I think there was something that you were working on to help with that in order for both people to receive the funding for the stimulus check.
Well, okay. If the divorce itself is in process, if the divorce itself, husband and wife are getting divorced, take example, husband and wife are in the process of getting divorced, and they get a stimulus check. It depends on, it's really a case-by-case basis. If the parties, if the husband and wife, plaintiff, defendant, and again, open lines of communication are so very important here. If they can agree, if they still have a bank account with both their names on it, it's okay to take that stimulus check, which likely, the stimulus check that they get will very likely have both their names on it, made payable to Mrs. X and Mr. X. You can take it, you can deposit it in an account, preferably just so no trouble starts, an account that has both names on it, and then divide it up evenly. Each party gets their $1,200, and that's it. That's okay. Or if you're not comfortable with that, you can, if you don't have the consent of both parties, you can send the check back to the IRS with a note that says, "Dear IRS, we are in the process of getting divorced, or we are divorced. This check is in both our names. The Mrs. may be going back to her maiden name or has gone back to her maiden name already and really can't cash that check. Please issue 2 different separate checks to Mr. X and Mrs. Y." We'll do that. It'll take a little time, but they will do that. I believe they can do that either by direct deposit and or physical paper mail. But you have to let them know, and please include your social security number is what tracks all of this. So please include your social security number on that request. If you have a social security number, you are entitled to a stimulus check generally. Have a social security number, you are entitled to it. And of course, dependents in the household. Dependents in the household, work it out, divide it up evenly and fairly. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone again, please keep in mind that the situation is difficult and it's difficult on all ends. And the best way to move forward is for everybody to kind of keep the other person in mind and to keep their best interest in mind. So for the landlords, please keep in mind that your tenants may have lost their jobs or may be going through a difficult time, even if they are getting unemployment or the different benefits that are now provided, and vice versa. The tenants, please try not to take advantage of the system. And if you can afford the rent, please make sure to pay it at the earliest convenience so that everything can stay okay. And as Frank said, and I want to repeat again, open lines of communication is the secret. So please make sure to keep your open lines of communication, keep honest and open lines open at all times. And again, if you have any questions or need any assistance, feel free to call PAC. Our information is 973-253-6145 or email us at info@paccusa.org, or you can also contact Waffle House and their information is below. I think with that, you're very thorough in your presentation, so I don't think there's any questions at this time. I want to just ask you for any final words, and then we will close off the event.
I would just finally, again, this all bears repeating. Don't forget about the lottery that's coming up July 6th. Make sure you apply for that. Even if you're homeless, God forbid, I'll say a prayer for you, but even if you're homeless, please apply for it. You're entitled to it. Also, Don't forget, yes, you still have to pay tenants, you still have to pay your rent. You're still obligated to pay your rent under Order 106. You're not going to get evicted if you don't pay, and you have until the state of emergency is lifted, plus 60 calendar days. It's possible that may be extended by the New Jersey Supreme Court, not the governor. It is possible. And again, reiterate my very gracious host, please, key to all of this is keep the lines of communication open, talk. Please don't take advantage. Don't escalate things to where you can't fix it or damage is going to be done. And landlords, please don't change the locks on your own. Don't sneak in the apartment when tenant goes out, they come back and they find all this stuff out on the street. Please don't do that. That's bad, bad, bad. Please don't do that.
Thank you so much, Frank. Everything you said, words of wisdom. Take it to the grave. Remember this and please live by it. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their Friday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will look forward to seeing you all next week for our next community check-in. Have a great rest of your day.
God bless. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.